The alien control room was quiet, almost too quiet. Bright lights hummed from the walls, strange symbols blinked in the air, and everything smelled like cold metal and old energy. Kai stood alone inside the room, a young human engineer with messy, black hair and nervous eyes. He wasn't supposed to be here. The alien captain had told him clearly, stay in the sleeping quarters. Do not enter the bridge. But Kai had never been good at following orders. Curiosity always won. He stepped closer to a glowing control panel. Dozens of buttons hovered in the air. Red ones, green ones, even some that pulsed like heartbeats. But there was one button that caught his attention more than the rest. It was glowing bright blue. And it blinked slowly, like it was calling him. Kai tilted his head. What would happen if I just ... tapped it? He whispered. He looked around, no cameras, no guards. The ship was quiet. The rest of the alien crew had gone to inspect a damaged wing. And they wouldn't be back for at least 10 minutes. His hand hovered over the button, just. One touch, he said. His finger brushed the blue button. For a second, nothing happened. Then everything changed. The lights in the room turned red. A loud alarm screamed across the ship. The ground shook, and the walls rippled like waves. Warning. A deep robotic voice said, "Jump drive activated." What? Kai backed away, eyes wide. No, I didn't mean that. Suddenly, the stars outside the window vanished. The entire ship jolted forward like it had been thrown across space. All sound vanished, and then silence. A moment later, the floor stopped shaking. The red lights faded. The control panel went. Dark Kai just stood there, breathing hard. Oops, he whispered. That wasn't supposed to happen. The door behind him burst open. Captain Tralith stormed in. Her tall, insect-like body glowing with rage. Her 4 red eyes locked on Kai. What did you do? She hissed, her voice sharp like broken glass. I might have touched a button, Kai said, trying to smile. Foolish human. Trelith shouted, you activated the emergency jump drive. We are no longer in mapped space. The other crew? Members rushed in behind her. Some checked the panels, others stared at the window. One alien turned pale. Captain, he said, you need to see this. Trelith turned, then froze, outside the window. A giant ship floated in the black void. It was massive 10 times larger than theirs, and completely silent. Its surface was covered in vines of glowing silver. And strange lights danced along its sides like ghost fire. That ship, one alien whispered. It's not in any records. There are no energy readings, said another. But it's moving toward us. Kai stepped forward, his voice shaky. Should we run? We cannot, Trelith snapped. The jump drained our power as they watched. A new light blinked on the control panel. A signal, a message, it's transmitting, said the communications officer. But not in any language we know. Everyone turned to Kai. He looked confused. Why are you all staring at me? Because, Trelith said slowly, the message is only coming through your mind. Kai blinked. That's impossible, but deep inside his head, a soft voice whispered in a language he somehow understood. Welcome home, lost one. Kai's breath caught in his throat. This wasn't just a mistake anymore. This wasn't just an accident. Somehow, by touching that button, Kai had awakened. Something ancient, something that had been waiting, and now? The whole galaxy might never be the same again. Asterisk, the alien ship floated in complete silence, yet something about it felt alive. The surface looked ancient, cracked, and scarred, like the bones of a dead god, but it moved, just a little, like it was breathing. Kai stood beside the main window, staring out. His hands were still shaking from the jump. He didn't know what he had done, but deep inside, Something told him this wasn't just a random place in deep space. He hadn't brought them here by mistake. It felt. Chosen Captain Trailith walked beside him, arms crossed tightly across her armored chest. Her red eyes had stopped glowing with anger. Now they were filled with cold fear. Not fear of him, but of the ship outside. This place is older than our maps, she muttered. No record, no warning beacons, no signals. Just that thing. Kai didn't respond. He was still hearing that voice, soft and deep, inside his mind. It didn't hurt, it didn't shout, it just whispered like wind through tall trees. Come, it said again. You must remember. The crew tried to scan the ship, but no data came back. No temperature, no power source, no life signs. Yet every sensor agreed it was approaching slowly. Like a giant ghost waking from sleep, the lights on their own ship flickered, something unseen. Moved through the air, a strange vibration. Like a hum that sank deep into their bones. One of the crew fell to his knees, nose bleeding, his translator chip overloaded and burst into sparks. We're being called, said the ship's medic, but only one of us is being invited. Everyone. Looked at Kai again. It was becoming clear whatever was on that ship. It wanted him. Trelith walked to the control panel and opened a private link to him. Her voice was low, serious. We can try to run, but this thing may follow. If we go aboard, I need you to lead. Kai blinked. I'm just an engineer. I fix pipes and toilets. She leaned closer. Not anymore. The docking procedure was quiet and slow. Like a funeral, no one spoke as the small boarding shuttle left their ship and drifted toward the ancient vessel. Kai sat alone in the front seat. Dressed in a borrowed pressure suit that didn't quite fit, he could feel every breath echo inside his helmet. Every second that passed made the voice inside. His mind stronger as the shuttle door opened. The air inside the old alien ship rushed in. Not cold, not hot, but heavy, like walking through memory. The hallway was dark, but not empty. Strange symbols moved along the walls, glowing softly as he walked past. The floor lit up under his boots. Like it remembered his footsteps. Kai didn't understand how he knew where to go, but his feet moved on their own. The crew followed behind him, quiet and nervous. Weapons ready. Then they reached a giant door. It opened with a long sigh, revealing a wide chamber filled with crystal pillars and floating lights. In the center, a stasis pod. Inside was a tall female alien with silver blue skin, long tendrils for hair, and markings across her face that shimmered like stars. She looked peaceful, sleeping. But the moment Kai stepped closer, her eyes snapped open. Gasps filled the room. Weapons were raised, but the alien woman didn't attack. Instead, she sat up slowly and smiled. Kai, she said, in perfect English. You've come back to me. He froze. Do I know you? Her smile faded into something more sad, more real. You did, once. Before the stars forgot your name, one of the crew whispered behind him. How does she know his name? The queen placed her hand on the glass, and the pod opened. Her body moved like liquid shadow. Graceful and strange, she looked at the rest of the crew, then back to Kai. You are not just human, she said. You are the key to what's coming. Trailith stepped forward, aiming her blaster. Explain now. The queen turned to her, voice calm. This ship was sealed to protect the galaxy from what lies beyond. I stayed here to guard it until he returned. Kai repeated, heart pounding. Returned from what? The queen reached out and touched his hand, and the moment their skin met, Kai saw something flashes of battlefields under red skies, planets burning, a ring of stars falling from the sky. And a man, a human, who stood at the center of it all. That man looked exactly like him. Kai pulled back, trembling. No, that's not me. But the queen just looked at him with deep, knowing eyes. It was, she said. And it will be again, outside. The stars twisted slightly, and the lights on the ancient ship pulsed like a heartbeat waking from a long, cold sleep. Kai couldn't breathe right, not because the air was thin, but because nothing felt real anymore. The moment the alien queen touched his hand, something inside him stirred like a sleeping storm, stretching its limbs after 1,000 years of silence. She stood in front of him, tall and otherworldly. Her silver-blue skin glowed gently under the chamber lights. Her long white eyes blinked slowly as if looking through layers of time. Not just space. You were mine, she said softly. You still are. Kai stepped back. Lady, I've never seen you before in my life. You don't remember, because your people made sure of it, she said. You were reborn, and I waited. Trelith raised her weapon again. This story makes no sense. You expect us to believe he's some kind of chosen one. The queen didn't even flinch. Instead, she turned to Trelith and spoke calmly. His DNA carries the mark of the old accord, something no one has seen for eons. He ended a war that spanned stars. His soul was bound to this ship as part of the seal. Kai didn't understand half the words she was saying. But one thing was clear, she was serious, and somehow the ship itself seemed to agree. The lights were reacting to him. The corridors opened only when he stepped near. Even her pod opened only after he arrived. I don't want to be part of some ancient space prophecy, Kai muttered. I just pressed a glowing button. The queen smiled, just a little. That button only responds to your kind. That was the final test, and now the seal is thinning. The crew murmured behind him, sure whether to aim their weapons or lower them. No one knew what to believe. The queen reached toward Kai's neck. Her fingers brushed against his skin, and something lit up beneath it, a small glowing symbol, hidden under the skin, now shining softly. Everyone froze. What is that? Trelith whispered. Proof, said the queen. He is the anchor. Kai touched the mark. I've had this birthmark since I was a kid. Not a birthmark, she said. A lock. Placed long ago to keep you hidden. Suddenly, the ship shook, not violently, but enough to throw everyone off balance. The lights dimmed, and a low hum echoed through the walls. Something was coming, something vast and cold. Rising from the dark corners of the ancient vessel, the queen's smile faded. We don't have time. The others have sensed your return. They will come. To finish what they failed long ago, Kai stepped closer to her. Who are you really? She looked deep into his eyes, her voice no longer soft, but filled with power. I am Elshera, last empress of the Silent Ring, guardian of the seal, and once your bondmate. The words echoed through his bones, even if he didn't remember it. Part of him recognized the truth in her voice. It was like a dream just out of reach, something he had known once, in another life. Trelith narrowed her eyes. What does she mean by bondmate? The queen looked at her, calm and proud. It means he was mine, and I was his, joined not by law, but by something older. The room went quiet, until one crew member whispered, You're saying a human and an empress? Kai turned red. Hold on, that's not luck. I'm just a guy from Earth. I repair coolant valves. I'm not whatever you think I am. The queen stepped closer, placing her hand over his heart. You are more than what you've been told. Another shudder moved through the ship, this time stronger. Lights flickered. The walls creaked. The ship was alive, and something was waking deeper inside. You said the seal is thinning, Kai said. What happens when it breaks? She looked at him, face hard now. Then the devourer returns. The name hit like a whisper of death. Even Trelith took a step back. Her voice dropped. That's a myth. A tale to scare hatchlings? No, said Elshera. It's real. Sealed here before memory. And if it wakes before the anchor accepts his role, It will consume us all. Kai didn't want any of this. But the room around him didn't care what he wanted. The moment he touched that button, his old life ended. Now, he had to choose, run, or remember who he used to be. The ancient ship didn't wait for his answer. It began to change around him, walls shifting, lights dimming. Like a great machine adjusting itself for a task only it remembered. Kai stood frozen, staring at the Queen Elshera, who had just claimed she was once bonded to him. He wanted to call her crazy, wanted to laugh, or maybe scream. But then the memories began. They came like broken mirrors crashing down around his mind. He saw fire, not red fire, but silver flames falling from orbit. He saw two suns over a black sea, a city made of crystal. A boy himself older, stronger, wearing armor that didn't belong to Earth. And her, always her. At his side, her hand in his, her eyes watching him across battlefields and royal halls. Kai stumbled back, holding his head. "No," he whispered, "that's not real." Elshera didn't move. Her voice was soft, but sure. "The memories are returning because the seal is weakening. Your mind is waking. I'm just a guy," he said, almost begging now. "I work on heating units and clean solar filters. I'm not some lost hero." Tralith looked between them. Unsure if she was watching a nervous breakdown or a rebirth, her claws stayed close to her weapon, just in case. The crew behind her whispered among themselves. Some looked afraid, others hopeful. Suddenly, the chamber lights flickered again. But this time, a new presence entered the room, not physical, not seen, but felt. The air grew heavy, like it had doubled in weight. The Queen's eyes narrowed. "It has sensed you." Kai's skin turned cold. The devourer. "Not fully awake," she said, "but aware. It remembers the one who locked it here." The floor beneath them cracked slightly, only for a second, like something far below had twitched. One of the crew members ran out, panic on his face. Another started chanting a prayer in his native tongue. Elshera looked at Kai, calm but serious. "The seal is breaking, and you are the only one who can hold it. But only if you accept what you were. I don't want to be that person, Kai." Said, "That life. I didn't ask for it. You already lived it," she replied. "And now the galaxy needs you to live it again." Tralith stepped forward finally. "Say he agrees. What happens then?" The Queen didn't blink. "Then he becomes the anchor again, and the seal will hold, but the cost is high." "What kind of cost?" Kai asked. "Your memory will return fully," she said. "But so will your bond to me, and your duty to the seal. You will never be ordinary again." He turned away, fists clenched. "I didn't ask to be remembered by the stars." "No," she said, "but the stars remembered you," as if to prove her point. The mark on Kai's hand lit up again, brighter this time. His veins glowed for a moment. And the ship responded. The walls pulsed, doors opened. Energy surged into systems that hadn't worked for thousands of years. The entire ship was waiting for him. Then a voice, not Elshera-S, not human. Not even a live code from deep inside the ship. Anchor confirmed, cycle returning, every crew member dropped silent, their eyes locked on Kai. He looked down at his hands, glowing faintly. At the alien queen, who waited patiently at the walls, now alive with light and memory. He took a slow breath. "I don't know who I was, but I guess I'll have to find out who I still am." Elshera stepped closer, touched his chest over his heart, and whispered, "Then it begins again, deep below the ship's surface." In a chamber untouched by time, a lock twisted open for the first time in centuries, and something began to stir in the dark. The tremor started as a soft vibration, like a deep drumbeat inside the bones of the ship, but then the floor beneath their feet gave a low groan. Kai grabbed the edge of a control panel. His breath stuck in his chest. Something was waking. Not from sleep, but from something worse. Captain Treylith barked orders. All crew, weapons out, now. But weapons felt useless in that moment, because this wasn't just some beast breaking out of a cage. It was older than cages, older than memory itself, far beneath them, deep in the lower decks of the forgotten ship. A great sealed door had begun to bleed light, not gold or red but a pulsing wrong light. Something that bent shadows the wrong way and made the air hum with hunger. Kai felt it first, not in his body, but in the part of him that remembered what his mind had forgotten. He fell to his knees, hands over his ears, screaming without sound. El-Shira dropped beside him. Holding his shoulders, the seal is cracking. The creature remembers you. What is it? Kai gasped. What's down there? The Devourer, she said, voice almost shaking now. Not a monster, not a god, not a ghost. It is the leftover hunger from a war no one remembers. It feeds on reality itself. Another tremor rocked the ship, and this time a scream rang out not from a crew member, but from the walls. A section of corridor melted like wax and then reformed itself with sharp angles and alien script. Some symbols blinked in patterns none of them had seen before. One of the engineers cried out, "It's rewriting the ship." "It's alive," Treylith shouted back. "Alive or not, contain it." But it was already too late for that. The lights dimmed across the vessel, and then every screen, every display, every sensor blinked one word over and over again: hungry. The crew stood frozen. Their training had never prepared them for this. Kai stood slowly, his voice no longer weak. "It's not coming to kill us. It's coming to finish something it couldn't before." El-Shira nodded slowly. "Because the last time, you stopped it." "I don't remember that," he said. "But it remembers you," she replied. "And now it's adapting to find another way. Something must have changed." The crew's weapons powered up, but the Queen raised her hand. "Guns won't stop this. It's made of ideas. It doesn't bleed." Treylith gritted her teeth. "Then what will stop it?" Kai's eyes focused. A mistake. Everyone turned to him. Confused, he pointed to the control panel. "The first time I pressed that button. I thought I messed up, but what if the real mistake was locking this thing away instead of ending it?" El-Shira hesitated. "You tried. It escaped into another form, so we trapped it, sealed the wound. But it's still bleeding into the cracks of time." Kai turned to her, heart pounding. "Then maybe we don't need to trap it again. Maybe we need to finish what I couldn't." Another flash of memory hit him, his past self, holding a weapon made of light and thought, standing in this very ship. But the enemy wasn't a beast. It was a shadow with 1,000 voices. The chamber they stood in flickered, and for a second, it looked like another time. The walls were cleaner, the lights brighter. Kai's reflection in the glass was not his own, but older. Stronger, tired, but determined. He gasped. "I remember this place. This is where I tried to end it." "But you didn't," said the Queen. "You spared it. Why would I spare something like that?" he asked. She hesitated. "Because it was made from someone you once loved." The silence in the room was heavier than any noise. Treylith stepped back, staring at Kai like he was something entirely new. "What the hell happened back then?" Kai whispered. El-Shira looked at him with ancient sadness. "That's what you have to remember before it breaks loose again." A sound echoed from deep below. No scream, no growl, just one word in every crew member's mind. Come. The seal was failing. The Devourer was almost free, and the only thing standing between it and the rest of the galaxy was a human who couldn't remember why he'd spared it the first time. The hallway stretched ahead like a tunnel of living memory. Kai walked slowly, his boots echoing against the ancient floor, each step syncing with a heartbeat that didn't belong to him. The ship was guiding him, not with maps or lights, but with something deeper. Like it remembered him and wanted him to remember too. El-Shira followed closely behind, silent now. Her silver-blue skin glowed faintly in the dim light, her face calm but watchful, like she was preparing for something final behind them. Trelith and 2 of her crew carried weapons, not because they expected to win, but because they didn't want to die doing nothing. None of them spoke. They all felt it, the presence growing stronger the closer they got. The air was thick. Like breathing through warm water, Kai's mind burned with flashes, memories rising faster now. Not in small pieces, but in sharp scenes. He remembered a different time, standing before the seal, a bright lance in his hand, the devourer swirling in a storm of voices, begging not for mercy, but for understanding. It had taken a form, something familiar, someone he had loved, someone who had once worn his bond mark, and he had hesitated. That hesitation had cost galaxies. I spared it, he whispered to himself. Because I couldn't destroy her. Elshera heard him, but said nothing. Her eyes said it all she had known even then, and yet she had followed him anyway. A soft door slid open without touch, and they stepped into the central chamber. It looked like a temple, but older, too old to be built. Tit felt grown, carved by time itself. In the center was a pit of light, swirling with gray mist. It wasn't fire, it wasn't energy, it was thought, and from within it, something rose. Slowly, a figure formed, at first featureless, then shaped itself into the image of a woman, beautiful, cruel, and familiar. Kai's breath caught in his throat. Her voice came before her mouth moved. You remember me now? Elshera raised her hand in warning. But Kai didn't move. He stepped forward, toward the shape that once wore a name. Talus, he said. The being tilted its head, smiling like a shadow that had learned to pretend. You were supposed to destroy me. Kai's voice trembled. You begged me not to. I begged you to see me. The devourer whispered, and you did. You loved me enough to break the cycle. But now, you came back, and this time, I won't ask. Trelith stepped in, voice sharp, stand down. Whatever you are, the devourer didn't even look at her. Her shape flickered, and Trelith flew backward like wind had slapped her through the air. You can't stop what I am, the creature said. I am what's left when peace fails. I am the promise broken. Kai raised his hand, the mark on his palm glowing like fire. The queen beside him touched his shoulder and whispered something ancient into his ear. With those words, the symbol on his skin grew brighter, and the floor beneath his feet responded. The ship recognized him now, not just as the anchor, but as its master. You said, I spared you, Kai said, stepping closer to the pit, but you didn't change. You just waited. I am change. The devourer hissed, the part of you that gave up. No, he said, voice steady now. You're the part of me that couldn't let go. And then, Kai did the unthinkable. He stepped into the pit. Elshera screamed his name, but he didn't stop. Inside the swirling thoughts, he saw everything his past life. The war, the choice, and the face of the woman he couldn't destroy. He saw her eyes, filled with hope, before they turned into hunger. And this time, he didn't hesitate. He reached out with his glowing hand. Not to kill, but to break the bond. Not to destroy the devourer, but to finally let her go. The light burst from his chest, filling the chamber, and the creature screamed not in pain, but in release. Then the shape shattered into dust. The light faded, and Kai collapsed to his knees at the center of the pit. The ship fell silent. The seal was whole again. But Kai didn't look up. He had remembered too much. And now he carried the weight of a love that spanned lifetimes and the pain of letting it go twice. The ship floated in silence. It's not the kind that comes from space, but the kind that follows after something ancient has passed. Kai lay at the center of the sealed chamber. Motionless, the swirling pit of light had dimmed, and the strange mist was gone. All that remained was the soft glow of the mark on his chest, slowly fading. Elshira knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she reached to check his pulse. Her eyes widened, then softened. He was alive, but barely, Trailith and her remaining. Crew entered quietly, weapons lowered, not from safety, but from awe. Something had changed. They could feel it in the walls, in the air, in their bones. The ship has stabilized, one whispered. Whatever that thing was. It's gone. No, Elshira said softly. Not gone released. They carried Kai to the recovery wing, where the walls shaped themselves around him like the ship was caring for him. All systems came back online. Power flowed through. Every corridor, it was like the vessel had been holding its breath for centuries. And now finally it exhaled. 3 hours passed. Then, his eyes opened. Kai blinked slowly, his voice dry. Still not a dream. No. Elshira whispered beside him, but you're free now. He sat up with help, confused, exhausted. I felt her, all of her, not just the monster, but the girl, the one I knew before. She was never fully gone. The queen said, you gave her peace. Kai didn't smile. There was no victory here, only quiet. You could have destroyed her, Trelith said from across the room. Why? Didn't you? Kai looked at her with tired eyes, because I remembered what made me human. The crew looked at him differently now, not as a clumsy outsider, not as a mistake, but as someone who had walked into history and returned from it, the ships. AI spoke softly through the walls. Anchor restored, cycle broken, navigation unlocked. Elshira turned to Kai, her voice calm. You don't have to stay. The path home is open now. Kai stared at the stars outside the window, then at her. And what happens to this place? The seal is strong again, she said. The galaxy is safe for now. He stood slowly, touching the wall as if to say goodbye. But the wall pulsed gently under his palm, like it didn't want him to leave. Where will you go, Trelith? Asked Kai, looked over his shoulder. I think I'll keep going. There are probably more broken things out there. Maybe I can fix them. Maybe that's who I really am. Elshira stepped closer. You were once a warrior, then a lover, then a savior. Now, maybe you can just be human. He nodded slowly, then turned to the crew. Thanks for not shooting my most of the time, Trailith snorted. You're still annoying. But useful, someone added. Kai laughed for the first time in days. It felt strange, like something old and warm inside his chest. As the ship turned toward the edge of the map, the stars ahead shimmered like they had been waiting too. The past was done. The seal held strong, and in the silence between galaxies, one human drifted forward, no longer lost, no longer forgotten, just remembered.